Hello, hello. Welcome to our podcast, The Half Hour Matcha. I am joined today with Pra. I am Janet, and today we're just going to discuss a very interesting topic, I believe. It is a question that Pra has received from one of her friends, which is basically asking, what do you wish your parents did differently for you during your childhood, or maybe more generally, just what do you regret from your childhood? What would you change? Things like this. So let's start. How are you today?
Hey Jay, I'm good, and thank you for joining this chat. I think it has been always these chats and these discussions have been close for close to our hearts.
Mm.
So to pick up something which actually takes us back to our childhood would be very interesting, is what I think. And yeah, let's get going. And maybe I'll give you a little background on how we chose this question today. So I was talking to a friend who has a young daughter, and she was talking about how she is already sort of hitting the teenage issues with her daughter. And I was trying to give her some perspectives as to what could be things that her daughter might be thinking. And those were literally what I was, probably I was putting myself in that position or taking myself back to how I was or what I thought what was going on in my mind at the time when I was that age. And then the discussion sort of, we brought in a couple of other friends also asking what could be something that you as an adult would go back and change in your childhood, or how things happen, you managed, your parents manage situations, or how you manage the situation, or basically changes that you think as an adult you would have changed if it was still in your hands. So yeah. Do you want me to go first, Jay?
Yes, go ahead if you already had some thought.
Yeah, not right now, but yes, I did have a discussion with my friend earlier. So, from that, I can pick up some bits where we discussed about how, so if I can talk about myself personally, I was this really quiet and, like submissive, kind of child. So, and very compliant. So, and I feel like that has translated into my personality, even as an adult, and it has continued for a longer period of time, which I felt like it. I'm not saying in a negative sense or not, but it has limited me in many respects, and that comes from a lot of protective atmosphere that I had at home. And whether it was because of my health or other generally because for my personality, my family always sort of protected me, and they never really thought that okay that I would venture out into something very adventurous. Plus, my sister, she was one of those really outgoing types, and in fact, if I can also call her a rebel. So, in that sense, also my personality was the opposite. Yeah. So, and I think my parents were also always doubted that I would probably get hurt, and they would try to protect me on top of it. That resulted me in becoming and when I get into in adult life, when I went into a profession, or even to university or at any other place, I felt like that is one thing that I had to really come out of. And it took me a lot for becoming vocal. I'm still being practicing it and becoming a little more open in terms of what I felt, and just being able to sort of challenge my own limits. Those kind of attributes I had to work on myself a lot. And in that sense, I felt like probably that is one thing that I would want to go back and change in my as a child, where I feel like I didn't have to be like that quiet, submissive, or compliant, or which apparently many people call pleasers in that sense. I didn't have to be that, and not that my parents were making me it. They never realized that I was becoming that because of the kind of concern and care that I was getting. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate. I think um, a lot of parents, especially Asian parents, tend to um, want to raise kids that are really obedient and really, following everything the parents say, and the parents normally already have a plan for them. I know they normally want their kids to become doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, right? And so, like from such a young age, I know for me anyway, I think since I was maybe 3, my mom said, okay, you're going to be a doctor. So I basically had no choice. It was like just ingrained in me since I was a child that I had this like huge weight on me that I needed to become a doctor. But at the same time, they always said like being a doctor is really hard. You have to be so smart. You have to study so hard. But it's like imagine telling someone who's 3 years old this and having that much pressure from when you're so young. So yes, I totally relate to what you said, and um, I guess I can speak more to the trauma part of it. Like, I think as a child, I wish that I didn't grow up with so much trauma. Like, there was a lot of generational trauma that was just passed on. And in my culture, it's not really talked about. It's like quite taboo to share feelings or anything. And so if you grew up with this model where your parents don't acknowledge your feelings and you're also not allowed to speak about your feelings, then you just start bearing it. And so it does sometimes manifest as people pleasing. I think for me, I had a lot of that because of the emotional trauma. And then, another part of it is just, I don't know, just like a feeling of a kind of a low key depression. Like, I don't know what my purpose in this lifetime is. um, how come I have all these achievements, but I don't feel happy with myself? So this kind of overachieving. I think that's like the other side. Like either you're a people pleaser or you're an overachiever. And so for me, I think I was a combination of the two, but more of an overachiever, I want to say. Um, but part of that was also because I had a lot of interests. So I always pursued all these different interests because, I just like doing that as a distraction from academics. But then, like you end up just kind of finding these distractions instead of facing what you truly are going through. So I was able to kind of um, bury these emotions for so many years behind achievements and behind hobbies and so on. And I just wish that there was a way back then for me to have known how to handle my emotions, how to, I don't know, like maybe even if there was someone I could have talked to, because back then mental health was really not a thing either. Now it is, so that's one really good thing about it. Um, but yeah, I think as a teenager, I was completely lost and had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I spent years searching for it, and now I'm in my mid 30s, and I feel like I'm finally starting to figure it out. So really, I wish I did that kind of soul searching earlier, like when it actually mattered, because when you're actually starting to think about what you want to do with the rest of your life, right, in your teenage years.
Yeah, like so much of what you said resonates with me because one thing I do want to mention is though there are a lot of course, much more in terms of avenues and people and just the space to talk about mental health and talk about these issues. The fact that you're able to acknowledge that you have something like that came very pretty late in the scene. So, but still, I would say it took a lot for me to just reach out and open up even in that space. Again, that the whole that personality that I was carrying, it wasn't easy to just so of course when we talk about such spaces, um, it has to do with access, financial support, and just being able to reach out to the right people, all of that. But beyond that comes you, as the person who has to go out and open up about such things. I think for that also for me was a big deal, and I feel like when I talk to a lot of people even these days, I feel like they are also going through the same thing, because maybe the younger people now, I can say younger now, so they probably didn't see the phase where you did not have so much access to mental health help or support, but they have it directly available to them since they would have known, yet they are also not able to open up, they are also not able to use it, that I think that thing one thing bothers me still, and again was another limiting factor, because I still remember when I went for some of my for my therapy in sessions. The first few sessions I was the same giggly self in those sessions. Again, it was almost like an extension of my people pleasing personality, that as if I was trying to please the therapist also. I just so today I can laugh about it, but that is how it started, and it was almost like a denial phase. That look, I'm this is a happy-go-lucky personality that I'm carrying. There's nothing which is it's not untrue, but many times you use it as a facade. You use it, to cover up probably the true emotions. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was when you were talking about it from your side, that yes, this whole thing about parents, especially Asian parents, having this whole the way children are brought up, and the kind of pressure that builds up. There was another thing that I discussed with my friend, which was which sort of comes in the same line, which was the whole idea of perfection. And it is not in the specific, like, it is not in the only sense of, oh my god, you have to get the highest grades or become the best professional or keep your room in the most tidiest manner. They're not just that, but sometimes just the fact that when parents are also trying to juggle so many things, their own lives, their jobs, the society, all of it. Probably they also have this, not probably insecurity, if I can call it, or at least a fear that maybe we are not bringing up the children, in the perfect way. We want them to turn out to be the nice children that nice individuals that they should be. That also, I think, somewhere casts a little bit of weight on children, and that I remember particularly discussing with my friend, that when the idea of not just passing your traumas, along with it, you also have to be conscious of not passing your insecurities. So I do, and where that comes, how I can relate to it is, because now for if my mom was working, and she was not the housewife, so she had to manage the house, go for work, and then manage us children and make sure that we have everything. So just the fact that when you're looking at parents working hard so much and being able to give you a lot of luxuries at that time. I would call them luxuries based on the kind of economic situation that we have. In you feel that burden. You feel like, oh my God, I need to make sure that whatever I'm getting, against that, I have also done my job. And what is my job? My job is to make sure that I'm studying well and performing well. I'm making sure that everything is at peace at home. Thing those kind of things that you just assume that they are your responsibilities, and then you carry that burden. So I'm not saying that I as an adult will go back and change it, because I did not have much. I feel like I don't have much that I could have changed, but I would have told my younger self that, look, this is not your job. Again, this is not something that is in your hands even. So, like, take it easy. It's fine. And again, today I can think about the fact that I probably did all this. In that moment, I didn't even realize that I was doing it.
Yes, I also can relate to this feeling of burden. Like, I feel like parents of a certain generation place all their hopes and dreams on you, and then if you don't live up to it, you just feel like this failure, and it's not a good feeling. Actually, just recently with my sister, we were talking about how we're just kind of expected to do anything our parents want. Even now, like they're in their 60s, we're in our 30s, and we still have to be the ones to manage their finances or help them book tickets, like whatever they need, we just have to do it. And it's just assumed that we would do it. And if we don't do it, then we're just called ungrateful children. And I remember being called so many negative things by my family growing up, and it was so normalized. And so I think the good thing right now is that people are choosing to have kids if they really want. Back in those days, it was kind of just an expectation, and a lot of parents, I think, didn't actually want kids, or maybe they had kids because they needed their kids for, like what I mentioned, this administrative stuff, or to take care of them when they're in old age, or whatever the motivation is. But nowadays, like people are having fewer kids, but the kids they are raising, they are actually mindfully raising them. Like they're not just following what their parents did or what society tells them to do. In fact, I guess I'm in an interesting position right now because I am going to have a baby soon. So I'm in the process of thinking like how I'm going to raise my child. Like what do I want to pass on? What do I want to break um, in terms of the cycle? And what I realized was that because at first I was following a lot of parenting advice. I was like seeing what do they suggest. But what I realized very quickly is that they always suggest like completely different things. Like one person is going to say, "Oh, science says this is the best way to raise your child," and then someone else is going to come and say, "No, actually, that is really bad. You must do it this way." Or you have like a lot of people saying, "This is what I did. My kid turned out really well." Blah blah blah. But my approach is going to be, I'm just going to adjust my parenting based on how my child is. I cannot predict right now how my child will be, but once the child comes into this world, I see like what he needs, what he wants, what his ambitions are, what his personality is. I will know how to parent. I think I don't need to follow advice. I don't need to, like a little bit unrelated, but like how some people they eat like apples and it's really good for their body, and other people like it's really bad for them, and yet like it's kind of conventionally accepted that okay, apples are good for you, but it's depending on the individual person. So I think parenting is kind of the same thing. Like I can't follow the same parenting advice for every single person because each person has a different personality and different needs. And so, yeah, I think to be a really good parent in this age, we really need to have a personalized approach and have this really strong bond with our child. Like, I think the reason why I had all this trauma growing up is because there was absolutely no bond between myself and my parents. Like, my parents just kind of assumed that I'm the same as them and that whatever they want is what is good for me. And yeah, it obviously was not the case and caused me a lot of um, negative uh, challenges, let's say, call it that. So yeah, I think if I can ensure that my future child does not feel this burden, that I'm not passing it on, I will already feel like an accomplished parent. Um, I'm watching my sister, for example, as she raises her child, and um, she's doing it very differently from how we grew up, and it's actually really funny because what she says is Yeah, I just think about what mom would do in my situation, and I do the opposite, which is really sad to say, but it's true. Like my mom basically did everything that like a mother should not do, and as long as we just deviate a little bit from what she did, I think we're on a good track. Um, yeah, and because my niece, she's very artistic. She loves drawing. She really loves music as well, and she's pretty good at sports. And she's also actually really smart, like academically. But my sister doesn't really care so much about that aspect. Actually, she's really encouraging her to explore her artistic, creative side, which I think is really really good because as at that age, like creativity is really where you build your confidence and where you build your personality. The academics will always be there, but I mean, not until you reach maybe middle school or high school does it become really important for your future career, right? But when you're a child, I think you should really leave um, time to explore who you are and you know, what you love, what your passions are outside of academics. Yeah.
You're right, Jeff, that you're quite at the right like sort of it's a crossroad sandwich kind of position that you are in. But it's amazing that you how you want to look at it is how being able to learn get your lessons so that you can mold your parenting style according to it. So I think, and I see that in a lot of other parents of this generation also, who are very conscious of the fact that they want to be the ones who break that generational trauma, and they're conscious of it. So I think that, and you're right that it will work. All of these things are very personal, and I look at it like driving, that you will have your basic lessons that look this is how you have to drive, like this is how the specific instructions about the technical aspect, but at the end of it you get your driving style based on your own backgrounds and fears and strengths, everything put together, that brings your own driving style. So I think that applies to everything. I mean, I really think you will, you're going the right way. I'm cheering for you, and it's like why I say this also because I feel like that's again one thing that I feel, if going back to the topic that we're talking about, that just the fact that there has to be trust in their own parenting. Let me put it this way, that parents have to trust that they have done their parenting right. Beyond that, micromanagement is not needed. And you will also be able to pass it down when you have freestyle in your parenting. So then it will also go to the next level, is what I feel. Because and like I really appreciate your sister, because I can tell you one thing, that as far as my parents are concerned, they tried to put me in any and every class that I spoke about. So, though I didn't make much use of any of it, but at least at the end of the day, I had that satisfaction that okay, fine. Whether it was guitars, classes, dance classes, drums classes, whatever, tennis, I failed in most of it. But just it was more like, my sister and I put together, we have touched in everything, every kind of class that was available. And these are the things that you carry in the happier way. If you're talking about limiting things, we also have to talk about what helped us bloom. We'll also have to give credit to our parents in whatever style they were parenting, even your mom, though, because the problem is that they came from a very different background, from very different and challenges. So, oh, and every generation feels like, okay, like this is what they've learned, so let's just, this is the and these are my lessons, so I'm gonna take that forward. Whereas adaptability and changing, as looking at what the situation is, or how oh, your challenges, your limitations will not be the same as those which will be for your children. So those things also affect. So it's and I also feel that none of them is okay. I can say, sit and lecture about this, not being a parent myself, of course, but I do feel that as a child, how I look at it is there's no formula for this. So there is no one like straight jacket formula, or there's no one thing which you can say that okay fine, I'm going to do this and this will fall right. But just the fact that you have to believe, like that it has to come from within, that intuition and what you want out of that relationship. You don't want that relationship to be something which is which is hierarchical, to say that oh look, I am the parent and this is the child, I'm going to take care of this child for all this time, and later on this is what I will get from them. That kind of relationship is not something that you're looking at, particularly in this day and age. I don't think it was ever to be done, but not definitely not in this age. And so if you break that, that itself makes a lot of that. I mean, I feel like that itself is a lot of progress, and that is sort of an evergreen underlying factor which applies to most situations, where whether it is parents, office, friends, anywhere, where you try to walk with them. That's definitely a more long term approach as opposed to anything else.
Yes, I agree. And thank you for raising the point that we need to be grateful for our parents and appreciate what they did um, through the good and bad. And yeah, I think what I was saying earlier sounded very negative, but actually, I am grateful for my childhood. And I recognize that I had to go through those experiences to learn certain lessons in my life. And and now I've cleared those negative emotions through all of the therapy that I do. And I mean, obviously, there was a time where I I blamed my parents for how things turned out because it was easier than to face that I myself had control and I could have changed things. So yes, absolutely, we must be grateful for our parents because they brought us into this world and they tried their best. I always look at my parents. I know they made a lot of mistakes, but they did try their best given the circumstances and the resources they had. Yeah, and I guess like one last point I wanted to mention is just I think for me, I would be really happy if my child comes to me for any problem, any advice, because I grew up with this kind of shame, like I can only tell my parents certain things. I cannot tell them if I did anything bad. If I got in trouble, like I would rather hide it and try to figure it out on my own, and then it just escalates and gets worse. And if I had a child that's just safe and just comes to me immediately, treats me as a friend, that's probably my ultimate goal, really. Like, I don't care what kind of career they want to pursue or anything like this, because in the end, it's their choice and it's how they live their life. Why should I care how they live their life, right? But I would want them to maintain a strong relationship with me because this is something I didn't have growing up, and I recognize the quality of that it brings into your life when you have this really strong bond with your family.
Absolutely. And the other aspect of the same thing is, um, you know, like if I, and again, I talk about this from my perspective, that the other reason why you don't reach out to your parents is also to avoid hurting them, to again, to avoid causing another burden, putting another burden on them, or those kind of things. Also you feel like, oh my God, if I go and talk about this, this is going to they're going to worry a lot more about this. Let me just figure this out myself, and close it. I probably will put that will be easier for me. That's another reason why it happens, but it's the same thing which, like, you go through the same process. Probably the reasoning could be different, but you as the child gets for one, it makes you like super independent, but not in the way, in a very positive sense. It makes you feel like, okay, I have to be responsible for anything and everything that is going to happen, and I am going to have to find a solution for this, which is again not the not the best way to to grow up. But I wouldn't say I did grow up like that totally. But yes, the idea of uh, of being able to solve things myself, that definitely is ingrained and it's still there for me. I still feel like, okay, if there is something, I have to find a way to sort of, to resolve this on my own. That is going to be much easier, not causing being hurt or worry to my family. And so yeah, so that's not the best either. And I loved what you said, that the kind of relationship that you want with your child is something where he can come to you for anything. Because I feel like when it comes to whether it's family, friends, siblings, all of those, the people that you close to and to whom you actually go when there is a problem are not necessarily the problem solvers. They are people who give you the space to say that, okay, some mess has happened, or there is something which has happened, and even I don't know the solution probably, but we'll go and we will do this together. We'll cross this path together. That confidence is something that it is amazing when you get that comfort from your parents. I, on the contrary, sometimes I feel like I take that role of the child. Like, what earlier I was saying, that, oh my God, my parents have really brought me up in a very protective sense. I tend to be that child again who wants to go to my parents and say, oh, can you please solve this sometimes? That kind of thing. And that is also not right. uh, you as an adult wants to be in such a situation where you are going to your parents, just like you would actually go and narrate this to your friends, and you come together and resolve it. Yeah, we I think as a family are working towards this. So, oh, and like, people change over time. Everybody takes their own time to understand, and everybody has their own journey. So that really helps. I'm actually looking forward to watching you play the role of a parent. It's going to be fun. I feel like you will be this really super cool, no nonsense, but very accommodating mom who will be very encouraging, and will be very positive about every idea that the child is going to come up with, because that's what I have always got from you.
Let's see. Let's hope. I admit I did work in a camp as a counselor when I was 16, taking care of little 3-year-olds, and I was very much just hands off and letting them do whatever they want, which was not what the bosses want. So, yeah, I didn't get in trouble, but there were definitely some moments where I was questioning, am I being too unsafe here? But no one got injured, so that's good. Anyways, it was really lovely to chat about this super interesting topic. I hope that your friend and also people listening are going to get a lot out of this episode. And yeah, anything to add? We have 1 minute left.
No, but it was really nice talking about it, and I think the purpose of our chats is going really well, which is us having fun.
It's fun and no pressure. Just just feels like when we used to have these matcha dates in person.
Oh yeah, 2 minutes, not 2 seconds to repeat the name of the show, the Half Hour Matcha Show.
After a half hour matcha, yes. All right.
All right, bye, Jay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.